Handball has a rich history on the East Coast. The game has flourished in places like New York and Chicago. Meanwhile, one of the biggest and most popular East Coast handball events over the past half-century has been the Peachtree Open in Atlanta, Georgia. Professional handball players from Ireland, Canada, Mexico, and multiple states here in the U.S. have converged to this hotbed of handball to help kick off the 2019 Race for 8 Professional Handball Season number 9. We welcome you to the E4 Design Ron Cook Memorial Professional Handball Stop with the World Players of Handball on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app. Welcome to another gorgeous Saturday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Dave Vincent alongside Max Lane-Mack as we are on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app. It's the Race for 8 Professional Handball Tour, Max, where you're one of the pro players, one of the featured artists here this weekend, and we have the announcement from the referee. So let's go to him first. We'll come back to you in a second.
Returning to serve, Emmett Peixoto for San Francisco.
The fans putting their hands together for the players.
Serving 0.
Killian Carroll, Max, is our #1 player in the world right now. He has that first serve against Emmett Peixoto, former national finalist.
Short.
This is the patron.com Race for 8 Professional Handball Tour, season number 9. Here locally, it's the A4 Design Ron Cook Memorial Handball event. I want to thank those that have tuned in across the country.
Killian looked really fresh yesterday when I was watching him. He looks ready to go this season.
Point.
Killian got here by defeating Nick Mattiotti, who's a former professional baseball player.
1, serving 0.
Nick is always a surprise. We come here and
Hit again.
he plays some of the top players. He gets wins.
Yep.
But then we never see him again until we come back the next year.
1, serving 0.
Absolutely.
You know how that feels, right?
I do. I ran into him yesterday multiple times. So
pun intended.
Pun intended, yeah. Sporting a little bit of a black eye now. But he had a great serve. You know, he put all of his shots down. I was really impressed with his right hand off the back wall. So, yeah.
And he played Killian pretty tough yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Killian has a back wall setup, goes to the right corner, hits it. I'm not saying that was a flat kill, but he didn't need to hit it flat.
3, serving 0.
And we're up 3-0. It's best 2 out of 3 to 15. Breaker also 15, and you have to win by 2.
Point.
Felt like Emmett was a little shadowed there a little bit halfway through that rally.
And going back to what you said earlier,
4,
I think that's one of
7-0.
Killian's strengths is he's so consistent because he's not looking to make the toughest shot out there. He's looking to make that most high percentage. If it doesn't have to be a perfect flat rollout, he's not going to go for it.
Side out.
Would you define Killian Carroll, who's now returning the serve, would you define him as a get artist,
0, serving 4.
or is he just have an all-around game?
I think he's just a complete player.
So his superpower is everything.
Everything, yeah.
Off the court
4,
might even be
7-0.
better than on the court, too. that makes it more dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got just incredible speed, and I'm sure his get ability is definitely probably one of his higher qualities, but in playing him, being out there, he's got power, he's got strategy.
And a shot like that,
yeah.
he's got smarts. But that's part of the strategy. I mean, he hit the ball behind Emmett. He could have gone down to the right, which probably 100 people would have. And that ball was short on the serve.
Can you serve? I call good.
It was definitely short.
1 agrees, 1 can see. Point.
Wow.
6, serving 0. Point.
Another thing that Killian does so well is his footwork.
First time out, score 7, 7,
I'm not sure if that's something you do well or just something that you have, but I can tell you right now he certainly has it.
Oh, his feet are always moving. He's always taking those shuffle steps, and he's
30
always putting
seconds
himself
or
in
a
great
minute?
position
A minute?
for that extra one step to be really moving into the ball and powering through it.
Yeah, and you just don't see him getting fooled too often.
the full minute.
I think his footwork definitely allows him. And speaking of great footwork, I think Emmett also has really great footwork. His strategy is so different from so many players on the tour this year. It's more defensive. It's more of a
30
old
seconds.
school Dave Chapman style. He likes to work the ceiling and play a lot of opportunity and percentage conversions. So I think his footwork is definitely paramount to him coming through and being able to set up and work players to the back and get them out of the
10
front court.
seconds. All right, resume play.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to slow the game
7,
down, but it's
7-0.
really not helped him at this point. 7-0. Killian is notoriously a slow starter. So when you see Killian up 7-0, and that's a rare miss from Mr. Carroll, you see Killian up 7-0, that's dangerous because it has the makings of a donut.
It does.
Shorty.
Because he's going to get hot here in a minute, and you better be
Second
scoring
serve.
some points before that happens.
Point.
There's that point, the first one for Emmett Peixoto. His whole family watching out of the Bay Area.
137.
San Francisco, Watsonville, California. His wife Jessica and his daughter tuning into the live broadcast, even though it's a bit early on the West Coast right now. Just after 7 o'clock in the morning.
I hope they brewed some coffee.
7, serving 1.
Kind of hoping they'd brew some coffee here,
Yeah,
to be
that'd
honest. I'm not here to judge, though.
That's an incredible V-pass.
But look where he puts it. It's a defensive shot, and he puts his opponent in the defensive position. Big setup here for Emmett off the back wall. These are great gets. Another big setup for Emmett. And that used to be a strong point of his. He had exactly the shot that he wanted. That was to be a flat kill.
8, serving 1.
And he missed it. Now 8-1. Instead of a side out and serving. Big setup off the back wall. Huge hop
Set up.
from Killian.
Great adjustment by Emmett there. That ball went all the way around him, and he just turns around and flicks it with the left.
Sorry, Killian.
We're at Recreation Atlanta. Name of the
1,
facility
serving
here.
8.
Jason Chan, the owner, is one heck of a host. Incredible, really. Another setup, a little bit of contact. Referee lets him play through it because of that. You don't want to penalize the offensive player by taking that play and starting over, because then Killian would be serving again. Or I guess it was a side out, so it is a point for Emmett.
Set up.
Emmett's frustrated with himself right there because he was in control of that rally, and then he didn't put enough zip on that second to the last ball. It was supposed to be a wraparound and just gave Killian the whole lane on the right.
And that's just kind of, you pick your poison with Killian, because I think it was a good pass to any other player, but Killian showcases that speed. He just flicks it back into the rally. If you're to hit it harder to try to get it by him, well, it comes off the back wall, and now he's got to set up.
Shorty. Second serve.
Incredible left hand. That's the offhand for Killian.
8, serving 2.
And he almost gets that ball back.
There's that beautiful V pass again to really changed the tone of that
2-38.
rally. They were even until Emmett really flipped Killian around there.
3, serving 8.
That's about the most upset you'll ever see Killian right there. Kind of put his head down, and
Side out.
that's about it.
8, serving 3.
This is game number 1, the men's quarterfinals. We'll have the semifinals later today as well.
Wow.
Killian missing that sort of half revolving door. It's
3, serving 8.
a little wide revolving door. You see when Emmett hits a perfect kill shot there with his left hand, and Killian's right there to dig it out.
It's just incredible to watch. The reflexes and the pickup, and he does something so smart with it every time. Not trying to go back into that corner. He moves him around, resets the rally, and gets back into position.
Killian does have a tendency early on in these
4,
tournaments
serving 8.
to make some hand errors, or unforced errors, as it is. There's
Point.
like at least 3 out of the last 5 shots have been freebies.
Absolutely. And
5,
Emmett's
serving
kind of
8.
even the tone here, got a little momentum back.
Short.
But you see what Emmett's doing. He's even over-exaggerating how slowly he's playing right now.
Second serve.
And that gets into your head when you're missing shots and you're going for kill shots and your opponent's slowing the game down even more. It's almost like mocking you. Killian has to feel a little bit of that right now, and you somewhat try harder, and then you end up missing. This is another setup for Emmett. Boy, Killian is fast.
Point.
Another error there to end it. And Emmett's really back in this
6,
game now.
serving 8. Hit. I want to replay that. Sorry, late call.
Oh, that's really no arguing from
Replay
Emmett.
that. 6, serving 8. Shut up.
Finally, Killian puts an end to the bleeding there.
8, serving 6. Point.
And that's a little difference
9,
with Killian
36.
from the last couple of years, is that now he's
Short.
learning how to hop the ball. So he's, by hopping the ball, if you're new to the sport, by watching here on ESPN, you're spinning it out of your hand like a pitcher would throw a curveball. And when it hits the ground, the ball actually hops. Killian went under the ball with his right hand and kept that ball straight. Emmett felt like it was going to pop around. Actually, he went over the top to keep it
10,
straight,
serving 6.
which we would call a reverse. And that was a natural there, which went the opposite way. So you have a good 2 or 3 feet difference between the 2 different serves.
It's tough to play against when a player has both. I think coming up, a lot of players have the natural. It's easier to figure out. But once you throw in the reverse, well, you have to wait on that ball. And when the ball's coming at you 95 miles an hour and about the level of your foot and ankle, you don't have a lot of time to wait to
6,
begin
serving
with.
10.
So it just adds a whole nother variation to the game plan.
Point.
And another crazy miss here from Carroll.
7, serving 10.
I really like the way Emmett slowed this down. Even more than how he started, which I didn't think you could do. So you don't have to go to the ceiling every time to slow the game down. You see Emmett's hitting these sort of mid-range
Point.
kill shots. He's flipping the ball around, and he's hitting it hard, but he's not really hitting it much more than 15 feet. And this ball, oh, it does make it. Killian was there, but unable to get his hand on.
8, serving
One of
10.
those bounces that's just so interesting. You'll never really see it until it happens.
Side out.
That was a terrible miss hit off the thumb to the roof.
10, serving 8.
When we're talking about Emmett's not using the ceiling as much too, I think the height on his pass shots is really incredible because he's keeping it up so Killian can't step into it, stay low on that ball.
11,
He has to
serving
play
8.
it up, otherwise he's putting a whole bunch of angle on the ball and trying to force it down. And that forces him to play a more defensive game.
Side out.
Yeah, you're right, because if Killian lets that ball wrap all the way to the back wall, he's digging the
8,
ball
serves 11.
literally coming straight down off a back wall or a side wall. So he has to take it when it's like on its up bounce or above his shoulder with a little bit of velocity.
Second serve.
Oh, that's crazy. You almost have to say sorry. Killian does. If you've been on the court with him, he'll actually apologize for those shots.
Point.
Beautiful left hand.
Yeah.
And just another smart kill.
Yeah, Emmett didn't put it in a bad spot either.
Come
That's
on,
kind of, if
serve
you're going to
eight.
hit that shot back down the wall, that's what you do. Killian shows you just how good his left is. Nice.
Okay.
Side out.
Figured there'd be a timeout there, but
Second timeout.
Yep, there it
Scores
is.
8, serving 12.
look at this get from Killian, dives in. Emmett comes in, steps up, kind of flanks Killian a little bit in just sort of a roundabout way, taking away that right corner, which made Killian think he was going to go up front, and instead he crossed him up. Let's go to Kara Mack, who's courtside now. Kara.
You know, the one thing about Killian is he's very mindful about his opponents, studying them before coming into these matches. So we asked Killian his strategy coming into this one. Take a look.
I have to look forward to Emmett slowing the game down, trying to play his defensive game of handball, and his methodical approach as well. He likes to play the opponent's weaknesses. I'm pretty sure he's a guy that studies opponents quite often. So, I'll just try and speed up the game, try and make him uncomfortable, and definitely try and stay composed and focused when he's taking his timeouts, his glove changes, and his breaks. As the first tournament goes, this is probably the most I have prepared. I wouldn't say I'm playing the best handball, but it's definitely the most I've trained for the first tournament of the year. And hopefully I'll keep playing better as the tournament goes on and gain more confidence.
What's interesting is we also talked to Emmett, and we'll hear what he had to say about coming into this match, because you see it playing out a little bit too as well. Dave, back to you.
Thank you very much, Kara. Killian giving a slight dig to Emmett, saying, all those timeouts and stuff. Emmett hasn't really done that.
He hasn't.
He's only trailing by 4. He should get that point, doesn't do it. But Emmett's not stalling, not calling timeouts, not arguing with the ref.
Do you think the Killian Carroll hand errors kind of put him in a zone where he doesn't want to switch things up and try to slow it down?
12, serving 8.
I think, but Killian's so seasoned that he's been through every crazy thing in the court. We've seen him have these huge comebacks. I think he knows exactly what he wants to do. You don't see him make hand errors when it's crunch time. I don't think it's crunch time yet.
Side out.
He is certainly missing those shots, though, and I don't think we've ever seen that. Well,
8, serving
maybe
12.
last year at this tournament. He didn't do well. This is the first stop of the year for some of these guys, so they're rusty. They haven't played professional
One agrees, one
style handball for a while. You might be in great shape, but you just haven't been in the great handball shape.
second serve.
I agree, especially when you haven't seen those serves, seen the power, seen the athleticism. It takes a little while to adjust.
And you haven't seen a player that's been there. Emmett's been there many times. He's in his upper 30s, Killian in his lower 20s. Emmett's been on the pro tour for almost 20 years now. I think he's in his 19th year. Almost Killian's age. And that was a beautiful shot there, the right corner kill from Killian Carroll.
12, serving 8. Point.
And Emmett missed that last corner dump kind of
13,
opportunity.
7,
Left
8.
it up for Killian, and you can't really do that. He'll put it away.
Point.
And it's a frustrating sport because you go in there and you
Possible
battle
game
for
point, serving 8.
an hour or 30 minutes, and you're making it really close, and then all of a sudden within just 30 seconds.
Hold it, hold it, hold it.
Oh, that was tough. Within 30 seconds, your opponent then scores 3 or 4 points, and now you're out of it after you've been battling to keep it so
Replay.
close.
Possible game point, serving 8. Short.
For me, I find that handball is always a game of runs.
Second serve.
So keeping it close is actually a sign that maybe you might have a little bit of a losing
Again,
edge
guys.
if you're
Yeah.
not getting in there and getting at least maybe a
Again,
point or
take
2
4.
Right.
every time.
Well, Killian takes game number 1, 15-8. Let's go back to Kara, who's right there at the show court, Kara.
You know, I want to talk about Emmett here really quick first, because before the match we also talked to him. He wanted to keep it a little bit of a secret what he was thinking coming into this one, because he too thought a lot about Emmett, watched back film, watched what he was doing to his game, and it influenced him on what he was going to do today. Take a look at this.
Yeah, I don't want to divulge too much, but I'm not going to fall into the tricks. So he tends to stand in different locations, hoping that I'll go for a shot so he can speed in really quickly and hit the shot that he hopes that I hit. So I'm not going to be tricked by his court placement.
We see him hold on there a little bit in game 1. We'll see if he can do that the rest of this match. But talking about Killian, we all know last year he didn't quite dominate every single tournament like he has in the past. We also asked him about that, seeing what he thought about not being the one to always come out on top and what that was going to do for the game.
Mixed emotions. You know, I lose. You know, I don't feel that good. But winning, you know, you do like to see other guys winning and improving. The 2 Cordovas are no exception. You know, they train really hard. They care a lot for the sport. They're great guys, and they deserve them titles.
Oh, my goodness. I thought he was going to get that ball back, and Luis Cordova wins the battle of the brothers.
But I think it's better for the sport. You know, I really do. It's more exciting. It brings new life to the sport. You know, everyone likes to see a dominant champion, and everyone kind of loves to see that one guy just because, like, it's in every sport, you know. Everyone loves Tiger Woods when he was dominating in golf. Everyone loved Roger Federer when he was dominating in tennis. But, you know, we've had so many dominant characters like David Chapman and Paul Brady, and even previous ones before that. I just think that seeing a lot of winners in different events is great to see. So, you know, I welcome it. You know, it brings on my game as well as it brings on theirs. You know, and that's the end goal. So.
And this here in Atlanta, one of the ones that he did not take away last year, losing to the Cordovas, who Luis, obviously the winner last year, holding on to his title this year. I'm curious, what do you think about that, Vincent? Whether or not having the one dominant player is good for the sport, or how that looks as far as that goes?
Well, I absolutely love it. I felt last year after about 2 or 3 stops max, that's exactly the hype that people were talking about. They were saying, you know what, this is an interesting season. We've got different winners for at least 4 of the 5 stops, maybe 5 in a row we had a different winner. And it did feel strange like that. And so, Kara, you know, I loved it, but I think the weird thing is hearing a player say it. You know, this is a young guy. This is something you would say when you're 40 years old at the end of your career.
Right.
You don't necessarily say that when you're currently number 1 in the world, saying, yeah, it's good for the sport to have other people win. I think what he's doing, Max, is he's taking pressure away from himself. You might think the same thing, Kara. I'm just not sure.
No, very true. And I think, you know, he's also really mindful, and he wants what's best for the sport as well, and he tries to look at all aspects of that. Obviously, though, wanting to be on top here. So
yeah, no, I mean, it's an interesting perspective. I think they're deep down what Killian does is he wants to take all the pressure off of himself, and I don't think what he's saying is not true. I think it's real.
I think Killian is a very introspective player. I think that the pressure he puts on himself is probably greater than any external pressure that can be put upon him. So I think he's honestly just answering candidly and honestly and saying, I've trained, I've run through everything I can, I prepared myself to the best of my ability, and I believe that my best is better than anyone else's. And so I think he does have a very mature philosophy when it comes to the future of the sport. He's been incredibly supportive to some of the youth programs and outwardly spoken about how handball should be, and calling for involvement from all organizations. And I think that just shows in his play that when it comes to handball, he's on the court player, he trusts himself, but he really does love the game at its core, and I think you have to at this level.
Yeah, quite a smart dude. We love spending time with him on and off the court. Same for Emmett. He has the same sort of inner perspective that Killian does. They both maybe overanalyze the game sometimes, but they also know that, hey, I can train as hard as I can. I know my ability, and if I lose, I lost. But at least I know I did what I had to do, and if somebody else beats me, that's probably, it's good for the sport. I can't, you don't want me to win every tournament, although it's strange to hear somebody say that. And here we are in game number 2. Emmett Peixoto scored 8 in game number 1. You're watching this broadcast with the World Players of Handball Foundation out of Tucson, Arizona. My name is Dave Vincent. We have Max Lane-Mack, currently ranked in the top 20. Sitting to my right, this is the Patreon.com Race for 8 Professional Handball Tour here on ESPN in Atlanta, Georgia, where it's the A4 Design Ron Cook Memorial going on at Recreation Atlanta.
Point.
This event has more titles.
2-7-0.
I had to breathe twice just saying the title of the.
I'm glad I don't have to do that introduction. I probably need cue cards.
There's that pass that you're talking about that Emmett does so well. He'll push Killian all around the court, and he has an open lane here.
Point.
I just really love the height of that pass shot. Comes in, jams him, but there was no way he was going to be able to back up and let that ball drop. He had to stay in there and play it.
Short. I call short. Agree. Second serve.
Smart shot. Max, we're really watching a good match here.
We are.
These guys are playing chess, just trying to find an opening so they can attack. Neither have really given that opening.
I think with the two smartest players probably on tour, as far as strategy goes, this is an awesome match to watch. You won't get necessarily the diving kills or the behind the backs or anything like that, but when you watch the pieces come together on the chessboard here, it all leads to something really cool.
2 serving 1.
Yeah, and unfortunately that rally ended with a hand error, and that's not the way it's been going. It's been consistent, during that rally. These guys are hitting these perfect shots. You're wondering who's going to overhit the first ball, so who's going to go for the first kill shot, end up being a hand error. And you see sometimes when a player starts to get fatigued, they'll just go make a wild shot and try to go for a kill shot or do something that's a little out of their realm. The percentages are down for them, but they will go for it. They'll either execute it or miss it. And most of the time, it's a miss for most players that you see. You see these guys really not forcing it here. You're seeing most of the rallies end on unforced errors.
Point.
That's our first real high-level elite shot there. Left-handed kill down the left wall for Carroll.
Short. Second serve.
Beautiful shot.
I would expect a timeout coming from Emmett if Killian scores another point.
5-71.
Especially a point that ends on a kill shot.
Side out.
Emmett's doing a great
175.
job of controlling traffic. I would say that he's dictating the flow of this match much more than Killian, even though Killian has the first game win and is leading here in game number 2. You really see Emmett pushing Killian all over the court.
Moving him around.
And Killian doesn't mind it. It's sort of his thing. But
Yeah, I think Killian can play both levels where he can be dominant, but I think he's just looking for those individual shots, maybe a get or something that puts Emmett off foot and just gives that his shots, or Emmett's shots, they slow down a little bit. They're not as well hit. And like something like this where he'll just step in.
Side out.
that ball just shot down after hitting the front wall. Terrible shot from Emmett.
5-73.
But Emmett hit 2 great kill shots there to get himself up to the 3 spot on the scoreboard. Little screen. Both players playing kind of close here. Killian tripping up on Emmett's feet.
Great pass.
Side out.
Just cracked it.
Emmett's the 3rd oldest in the draw today, in his upper 30s. I believe he's the 35 national champion in singles.
3-75.
But we have Dave Fink and Marco Chavez coming up. Dave Fink is 42 and Marco's 44, 45.
Yes.
Second serve.
So some of these old dudes are still playing really good. And for those non-handball players that love Tom Brady
Play it again.
playing at a high level in his 40s, wait till you see the next guy coming up. He's an absolute machine. One of the best athletes on tour, Dave Fink.
Absolutely.
42 years old, and he's really
Replay,
unbelievable.
3-75. Point.
Unforced error from Killian Carroll. Didn't have to hit it that perfect.
4-75.
Maybe a bit of impatience there. Emmett's slowing things down.
Side out.
Man, that's a beautiful shot. You see the dot next to Carroll's name. That's to signify that Carroll won game number 1.
Side out. 4-75. Short. Second serve. Side out.
Beautiful fly. Left corner kill with the fist, of all things.
5-74. Point.
It's a timeout on the court here, Max. And I believe we have Kara during this timeout. Kara, what's going on?
You know, we talked to Emmett too again about how life has changed for him. We know he had his daughter Amelia. Life changed then, getting less sleep, having to be a dad. But he's also been going to school this entire time. So just this past year, he received a fellowship. He told us that gave him a lot of flexibility and time for training. So this is what his training looks like.
I play handball about 4 days a week, work out about 5 days a week. I don't want to get too far into the specifics, but I'm stretching. I'm able to stretch every day now. I'm able to run. We got a Peloton, so I'm able to like bike right there, right in the middle of my reading. I can bike and then go play handball. I don't know, it's great.
Peloton, is that something you've hooked yourself up with yet, Dave? I have not seen the Peloton, but I want to try it.
Is that like a dinosaur or something? I'm not into
I've
cryptozoology.
seen the pop-ups in the mall, and I'm like, I gotta try one of those out.
No, yeah, that's I can't even, if I can't spell it, you know I don't do it.
I can tell you how to spell it. I can teach you that. You gotta pick it up. That and magic.
Funny. Let's go back to the court here. 5-7 in game number 2. All of my workout equipment at my house looks like an archaeological dig. Nice little pickup there. Did he get that?
He did.
6, service 7.
Perfect shot. Killy just powers that past Emmett while Emmett's on that same wall. Why does a player choose to do that while their opponent's just 3 feet from the side wall? Is it because it's harder to get the ball over to the right because they might be standing in the way of the shot?
I think the angle definitely helps. When you have to open up your body like that, sometimes you can take your eye off the ball and make a hand error. I think it's also that's just so good a shot, you know. He knows that shot, trusts that shot. He's got the power on that shot. It's here it is.
High percentage.
What you can do. Yeah. He's really just challenging Emmett to come in and play it.
And another one of those balls that matches the wall right where his hands do. Impossible sometimes to get those back. And you say, well, these guys are pros. It's like, well, it's just a weird shot. You almost have to put your hand on the wall and just scrape
7, service 6.
to get that ball back.
It is. And normally when you hit it, you know, it's the middle of your palm or something like that. You can't come around the ball unless you want to break all the fingers on your right hand. So it is. It's just trying to flick it, and it's an interesting feeling for sure.
Well, Emmett broke his thumb on these courts 2 years ago, so I'm sure that comes into mind as well.
And for some reason, I always think concrete courts, seem to have that factor where you get more of those shots.
Right. No screen.
Replay, sorry guys.
Well, last year in San Francisco at the South End Rowing Club, you went to get a ball, back court. You reached back and tried to flip it, I think probably back to front wall, and then you dislocated and snapped your finger back and had to go have, I'm assuming, surgery or at least some type of stent or something put in there.
I did, yeah. I dislocated it, and then they said the trauma, the force, required me to get some stitches. So I was really lucky. It's healed really well, and I was back on the court within 6 weeks. Probably not the smartest thing to do, but I wanted to get ready for Salt Lake, and it's healed well over the summer. I was kind of playing at maybe 90%, and now I feel like I'm back up to 100.
That's great. Nice dig right there from Peixoto. Seems that Killian's still directing traffic a little bit more here. He's in the front court. That one's going to be replayed. Emmett's putting up a pretty darn good fight here, keeping the #1 player in the world at bay. walks up to the front court here, and
First time out.
This
Score
is-
6, service 7.
Emmett's going to look for the closest garbage can here. Let's take a look at the brackets as Emmett got here by defeating John Iglesias yesterday in the round of 16 in 2 straight. It was a pretty close first game. Second game was a blowout. Killian, Carroll, same thing. He got past local legend Nick Mattiani, former Major League pitcher. And then there's Emmett there up against John Iglesias. You expected that one to be close because John defeated Emmett the last time they played in Salt Lake City at the Players' Championship. So that could have gone either way, but Emmett was the stronger force, winning game number 2, 15-1.
30 seconds.
This is the A4 Design Ron Cook Memorial Handball Tournament. It's been around for a long time. There's a quick look at that full bracket, though. Got a lot of names there. David Fink and Luis Cordova coming up next. Luis won the tournament last year. He's the 4 seed. Luis Cordova getting past Lauren Collado. David Fink past Leo Canales from El Paso, Texas, which was an interesting one yesterday as well.
Now it looks like Luis might have a potential redraw of last year's quarters, semis, and even finals. You could play Fink in the, or we'll play Fink in the quarters, could play Killian in the semis, and Danos is sitting on the other side there for a final. So
last year at this tournament, we had that all-brother final, as Danny and Luis were both living right here in Atlanta. You couldn't really script it any better than the way it worked out last year for the 2 Cordovas, who had never had a win on the professional tour, and they both made it to the finals, with brother Luis winning last year, and then just a couple stops later, brother Daniel wins his first one in Portland, Oregon.
I think that was a breakout moment for both the Cordovas. They really took that next step and said, we're here, we're always threats. I think Daniel followed that up with a semifinal against Dave Fink in Tucson, and it was impressive. It definitely marked the start of a really fun season. And I know the crowd here was definitely completely into that final match between these two.
Yeah, it was great, actually. And again, as Killian said, it was great for the sport to have all these different winners. We certainly started off, I think we had 4 stops before someone from Ireland even had a win.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't say that at all in any of the previous 7 seasons that we've had, where an Irish player pretty much dominates these brackets. Last year it was completely different. We had our current 2-time world finalist in this tournament not make it out of the round of 16 this year from Ireland, and Martin Mulkerns, and he didn't do very well last year either in the tournament, being defeated by Sean Lenny. So it's certainly been kind of a different scope for, I would say, the last 18 months in professional handball. After having just a large amount of the previous 7 years just been dominated with players from Ireland.
Yeah, certainly just a fun season for anyone who was following the Pro Tour last season. And I think it's I saw that match between Lenning and Mulkerns here last year. I've never seen a level like that out of Sean, so that was incredible to see. But a good influx of Irish players also coming over and playing the stops, which is nice. You have Fergal Coughlin here. He's turned a lot of heads. Last year, Peter Funchen was here. And
Niall O'Connor.
Niall O'Connor, absolutely. So, great draws, good turnout from both nations and sides and all across the world.
Yeah, well, we have players from Mexico, and in the previous years, Canada had a good representation here. Not this tournament this year, but it'll certainly happen again. Emmett taking a really long break here. It's a rookie referee who allowed him to go back on that glove change. Now, the ref would have done it anyway because you have to wear gloves, but he could have stepped up and said, hurry, even though Emmett probably hurried as quick as he possibly could on his own.
Killian got 3.
But that whole break was due to the fact that Emmett got sick, which is something he often does during these matches.
It's another level of exertion when you get into this round. I think even playing a slow game, you know, everybody sees, oh, they're not running that much. It's the little bursts, and it's the tension you're under, waiting for that next shot to come, trying to react. You have to be ready at all times. There's no mental checkout, and that's just as tiring as running a full mile at full sprint.
It's a setup.
Side out.
Killian's
I mean,
just so
point
good.
straight.
You know, he hasn't been taking a lot of chances. That I feel that was more of a chance, but that ball broke, or is it wet? Oh, it just got wet. And this is part of that stalling that Killian was talking about earlier, that he has to just say, this is what is going to happen when I play this guy.
8,
You saw that
36.
extended timeout. You see Emmett throw a ball that hits himself with it, and then he throws it to the ref. This all is to kind of throw Killian off. I know Paul Brady didn't like it in the past, and you might see a different motivated Killian, but you see how it affects a guy when you're slowing the game around and you're
6, 7, 8.
doing some of these little antics. Killian does a double fault, a short and then a long, and then
Point.
now a hand air. It does have an effect.
7,
Definitely
7,
does.
8.
Especially if you're, you know, more of a flow player, you know, you like the close rallies and the power and the speed. It'll take a toll. You have to start thinking about your shots, trying to place them, because you have so much more time and you can overthink them.
Right.
8, 7, 7. Point.
Killian's notorious at keeping people at about 30-minute matches, and Emmett's notorious at making sure it goes over an hour.
9, 7, 7.
And so when they clash, you'll sometimes see a little bit of fireworks.
Point.
And it takes Killian here to kind of be a little bit more aggressive and step up to try to get this over with, because it gets to a point where it is annoying.
I would say playing Killian's like, it may be a 30-minute match, but you feel like you just played for 3 hours.
Right.
Your legs will be numb. Playing Emmett is kind of like you feel fresh, but mentally it's like you just took the ACT, went to law school, and read like a novel or something like that all at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. Back when Emmett was
Point.
young and I was much younger, I absolutely loved playing him because he was so intense, and that he would try as hard as he could on every single shot. And that's who, you know, you want to play people like that. You know, you wouldn't score a lot of points, but because he was so good. But it was, he hits a heavy ball. It's you just feel like you're
Second
literally
timeout.
going in there and
The
getting
score is
punched by somebody the
12-37.
whole time you're in there. So you have this, you got the loss, but then your body feels it, and you're completely drained
Right.
of your emotions and your physical aspect, even if it was a pickup match or just a fun game to play.
I played him in the Worlds in the first round one year, and I mean, I was tired by the end of the match and everything, and I was amazed by his touch, because he would literally still be able to put these balls down the walls, and the minute I would go back to return them, they would touch a sidewall, and that's all he needed. He would set up and finish them after that, and it just gets to the point where you feel like you're playing a good game. You're in the flow, you're not making hand airs, but you're just making these incremental little mistakes, and it leads to him scoring point after point.
And that's because of
20
what
seconds.
total control. He's been playing for so long. He knows exactly what the ball's going to do. He knows where you're standing. And so it's just having a great control of the actual game. And you said the name earlier when you brought up Dave Chapman. That's obviously, you know, Emmett's idol, a guy that was able to control the flow, where the ball was going down the walls, knew where you were standing. It gets frustrating because you're always just a slight step behind, and he'll bait you to go after a shot just to wear you down, knowing that if you do get your hand on it, he's in a better position anyway. It's almost
Resume play.
easier sometimes just to not go for it.
12-37.
Just conserve your energy.
I think that's almost a very dangerous thing for any player, though. I think every point is kind of sacred in its own way.
Right.
And the minute you start saying, I'm going to go for this ball, you know, you start playing a lot with fire because you never know which balls sometimes are going to wrap, which ones actually might have a little hop and might stay up. My philosophy has always been you just got to play every one, you know, lay out for every ball, and it certainly will wear you down when you're in the later points. But
well, if you get to that point where you're contemplating not going for it, then they broke you.
Mm-hmm.
Here, Killian is having a little talk with the referee. 14-7. This is match point.
Possible match point, sir. 7.
Killian wins the first one, 15-8. Here at 14-9, and there he gets it. He defeats Emmett Peixoto. He advances to the semifinals. Round of applause here from the crowd in Atlanta, Georgia. Killian's going to realize that he's going to take a step backwards because he'll see Kara, and they'll go off the court. Killian knows exactly what he has to do here, his duty. These players, they get off the court, you know, they certainly want to change their shirt and just decompress a little bit. Their decompression happens with Kara right now. Let's go to her courtside, Kara.
Yeah, what are your takeaways from that one against Emmett?
Mixed emotions, definitely. Definitely need to be more focused, need to be more composed and not as anxious, I suppose. So just try and calm the nerves and get ready for the semifinal.
Did you notice anything different than Emmett was doing in that match against you than he's done in the past?
Not really. He likes to slow the game down a lot and push me out of the center of the court. You know, he doesn't move very fast towards the ball, and he always likes to play defense. So like he's always pushing into the ball, just making sure that he gets there, and he pushes a good defensive shot. And he's like trying to make me make the error, which I did quite a lot of. And I think he just got sick in the second game and couldn't really bounce back.
Especially at a time when you win this quarterfinal, are you glad, relieved that it's the first one of the day and you have some time now?
Definitely, yeah. You know, I think that's always a benefit that you know you're going on at 9 o'clock and that you finish and that you have the most rest towards the semifinal. You know, so it's definitely a huge advantage.
Good luck in the semis.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Killian.
Yeah, Killy is not very happy with himself right there. He knows that he had a lot of hand errors. He knows he has a lot of work to do. He also knows that the people that organize the brackets are listening, and he's sending a message saying, you know, it's important that the number one seed gets that first match of the day, which in handball circles, that's the way it's always been. But if you look at other sports, tennis, for example, they will take their marquee players and put them on TV times because they want to maximize their TV audiences, which means that sometimes people that they're, or opponents that they're going to play in a later round might even get more rest than them. That's just what happens in sports. And Killian sending a message saying it's important to be the first person out of the gate. He wasn't first out of the gate yesterday in the round of 16. He was about 6th or 7th in yesterday's lineup. I'm sure that didn't fare well with him, but you saw the audiences here to see him. They wouldn't have been available at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, more so at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Absolutely.
So he's kind of throwing a little dig out there. But you can see it from the player's perspective, and you can see it from the TV perspective as well, just the way it is. Coming up next, though, we have Luis Cordova. He's the returning champion from last year, and he is a crowd favorite. We're talking about that crowd. Well, he brings it. So get ready for that. And David Fink. There's going to be some fireworks, we feel. Stick around. We'll have more action from Recreation Atlanta for the Ron Cook Memorial Peachtree Open, brought to you by E4 Design. It's the patron.com Race for 8 Professional Handball Tour Season number 8 for Max Lane Mack, as well as Kara Mack and those that help out with the crew, Linda Manning, Chris Garad, Shay Lowenstein. My name is Dave Vincent. Stick around. We'll give you the next one in about 10 minutes or so here on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app. Stick with us.
Hey, Bobo.